In today's journey, we're going to take an in-depth look at the Wort Whipper from KegLand. Not only will we be cracking this open to see what its guts is made out of, but we'll be starting with a good old stir-off to see how the Wort Whipper compares to other stir plates such as our high-end hot plate stir. The stir starter that I owned since I first started brewing 15 years ago, a cheaper hot plate stir that I just recently got off Amazon, and the cheapest stir plate that I could find on Amazon. Then we just need to top them off with some 2,000 milliliter flasks, and it's off to the races. Now's probably a good time to mention that there's a big misconception about stir plates, and it's they don't need to be that powerful. In fact, when they are too powerful, they exert too much shear stress on the yeast cells, degrading the quality of your fermentation. To avoid damaging your yeast cells, refrain from forming a full vortex. In fact, you only ever need just enough power to keep the yeast from settling. Nothing more. However, if you do feel that you have a lack of turning power, it may be because of an inefficient stir bar. We recommend using a 1-inch with ring stir bar. The ring helps avoid friction while turning, thus allowing higher speeds. They can, however, be a little noisier. So if you want something quieter, use one without a ring. For your convenience, affiliate links are listed in the description. But now that we've covered the basics and the expectations have been tampered, we can understand the fact that unless you need a stir plate that can boil the world's smallest beer, boil 2 1-liter starters at once, or brew 1-gallon batches of extract beer in glass vessels, then you probably don't actually need lab-grade equipment. But we do, and the best way that you can encourage our bad habit is to buy some of Phil's art through the link in the description. Custom prints that ship directly to your door. But enough about me. Allow me to explain why the Wort Whipper is one of my favorite stir plates, specifically to use on camera. Because as you may recall, the Wort Whipper was one of the most powerful in the lineup earlier, but it also does so while being the shortest and most compact. For us, it means it fits best on frame compared to the other stir plates, but for you, it means savings in space. However, that may not justify its higher than usual price point. Although, in a vacuum, it is a sound investment for a budding brewer who isn't interested in making their own DIY stir plate. I'm sure we could get the comment section full of stories about other people's failed and successful attempts. And anyone looking for inspiration on their own projects will be interested to see that the inside of the Wort Whipper is very DIY vibey. In fact, there's not a component in here that couldn't be considered off-shelf. From the DC to DC converter to those magnets, and even the PWM motor speed controller is the same one that we use in our custom-made pump control box. This is actually fine, and kind of cool, because that means if something goes wrong with the component, I can just replace it and get the parts off eBay or Amazon. Link in the description. Another benefit is that because it's designed around mature technology, it's relatively cheap. In fact, if you were to design this yourself, the most expensive part would probably actually be the box to put it in. And KegLand probably thought the same thing too, which is why this case kind of looks like it was designed for something else first, and then repurposed for a stir plate. And that would explain why cable management is done with hot glue and everything else is hot glued down. Besides the motor, that does get 2 screws. And those screws get hot glued too, for some reason. Probably to prevent them from getting unscrewed from vibrations. Another sign this box was originally for something else. There's a lot of ventilation for something that's going to be around water. It hasn't been a problem for us, but it is a little concerning, as is the quality of the plastic used to make the box. It seems flexible, weak, and one step above 3D printed. And since they advertised that this can handle 5 liters, it would have been nice to see more supports on the inside. Not that they need it to support the full 5 liters, as here you can see me vortexing a full 5 liters, but honestly, you really shouldn't be pushing the max all the time. If you need to do 5-liter starters, this can do it. But if you need to do 5-liter starters on a regular basis, then you should probably invest your money into something more durable. But if you're making a 5-liter starter, then you're probably brewing for a living, in which case I'd recommend something that could boil and be the stir plate at the same time. It's just like how if we had bunk beds, we'd have more room for activities. And so long as you're not expecting a full hard-on vortex, then this will operate as advertised. advertised. And if it doesn't, then inform the manufacturer or where you purchased it from so that you can get a refund. Or have your defective unit replaced. For some reason, some people think that you need to complain in reviews before you're able to get a replacement unit. Like the person who said that it couldn't even handle a 1000 milliliter starter. Like this one. I let it settle so that it could have as much work to do as possible. It seemed more interesting than having a live ferment of a starter going on for 48 hours. And although it is a little tough going at first, as you can see, it's chewing away at it just fine. That 1-inch stir bar just bit by bit. And you know what? I'm going to bet that we can just go on and assume that if this stir plate was able to break up that yeast cake to this degree, then keeping liquid yeast in suspension will be no trouble at all. And while I'm going around being suspicious, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the reason why this stir plate gets a lot of negative reviews is because the stir bar that it comes with is terrible. Unfortunately, I can't test that because I lost mine years ago. But the stir plate keeps working, so 1 star off there. But this is also kind of industry standard, as most stir plates do come with a stir bar, and that stir bar is almost always crap. It's kind of exactly like the ink that comes with a printer. It's intended to be replaced. But I'm sure if we ask pedantic Phil just nicely enough, he would make an entire video just about stir bars, which would be kind of awful because most brewers would only ever need a 1-inch stir bar, preferably with a ring, and purchased in a 5-pack so that it doesn't get lonely when it falls down the drain. It shouldn't be this way though. When they say it comes with a stir bar, it should come with a good one. And of course, with a ring. Because then it can do things like be used in a mason jar. And like, Erlenmeyer flasks are cool, but mason jars are everywhere. And hey, if you're gonna do a no-boil starter, why not? The downside to using these kinds of jars though is you can't go as fast. The good news though is you don't need to go really fast, as that can be stressful for the yeast and affect fermentation. Overall, I think this is a great stir plate, and we will be getting more for the studio. Even though it should be a bit cheaper given its DIY nature, it does earn its keep by being a reliable stir plate, and it's nice to know that if a component were to go bad, I could probably just get it off of eBay and fix it. However, if I worked at a professional brewery, I would not trust this device to survive longer than a week. It's just not meant to be in a hazardous environment like that. And one good drop onto the concrete floor, it's toast. But that is what I've come to expect from KegLand products over the years. Professional features at a homebrew style. Spoiler alert, favorite fermenter? Firmzilla. You just learn to take the good with the bad. Like how I've learned that I'll never have a stir plate that controls temperature the way I want it to. And did you know that if you like, comment, and subscribe that you can help us fulfill our dream of owning a stir bar that can sense temperature and pH. However, if you really want to be a member of the Cool Kids Club, check out some of our other videos here. And of course, as always, happy brewing.